Okay, if you haven't seen the doll pants leg ruffle, okay, look at that. I just did a video on that. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to put a ruffle on a child's pants or adults that's already got the leg made. Now, just pretend that this is the leg and it's just going to keep going up and up and up and up, okay? But the finished leg will have this raw edge at the bottom, okay? And say that you want to put a ruffle on the bottom of that, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to ruffle this piece, okay? Well, what we need is we need enough to go around it, but that would be just a cuff. So we need at least 1.5 to 2 times around. Well, this leg is about 11 inches. So if we double that, it's 22. Okay? So imagine adding 10 more to it. That would be 1.5-ish. Okay? So that would be 30. Okay? 30 to 40. So sometimes our fabric doesn't go that much. So oftentimes the whole width of the fabric, when you stretch it out, is like 40 something inches. Just use that whole width and don't even cut it off. Okay? So what you're going to do now to do a boutique ruffle that does not require hemming. Okay, let's think about it. All right, what are you going to do? Well, how long do you want the pants? Okay, so I'm going to write this down. If you want, okay, let's do some math. All right, so say you want your pants to end up 40 inches. Okay, okay, all right. Say that you want your ruffle. How long do you want your ruffle? You want your ruffle, well, let's just do a little ruffle. Say that we want our ruffle to be about 2 inches. Okay. All right. Now, say that we've gotten our pants. So here's our pants. Okay. And they're finished. Okay, they're not even, are they? All right. Your pants are finished, except they need this ruffle on the bottom. Okay, so we've measured them. We've even put the casing in and the elastics in the top. Okay. All right. You have to do this first, or you can't measure down and see how long they are, because if they're raw edges up here, then you don't know really how long your pants are going to be until you fold this casing down. You have to do this first. So casing first. Okay, so now we're going to measure. Okay, we want it to be 40 inches total when we're done. Okay, now we measured this and we've got 42 inches. All right, so that's way longer than we need. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to make our ruffle, and then we're going to put them against the edge of the pants, and then watch the doll pants video with the ruffle. And it shows you how to put it on upside down, and I'll show you again. All right, but let's do this first, okay? So we're going to say that we want a 40-inch total pants. All right, now you can plug your own numbers in there too. All right, so I've got this long piece. Let's see how long this is. This piece is 35, 40. This is 40, so this is double. Okay, this is double the leg of that pants that I was showing you. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to turn our tension up to 9, our stitch length, how long our straight stitch up, to 5, the highest one it will be. Okay, we want some long tails. We need a new bobbin. Alright, and then we're going to put a pin on the side that we're sewing on. That is the top. And I'll tell you why in a minute. You have to remember where the top is. Alright, so I'm going to take this and put it down with a little fabric sticking out just on the side. Do not backstitch. Do not sew off. And back there in the back, you see it is ruffling a little bit. Just go all the way down. Threads here. Now there are different ways to make ruffles. You could have made a tube and sewed all the way around it. But sometimes I like making it just straight like this and attaching it where it needs to be when I'm done. Okay, don't back stitch, don't sew it off, roll up, long tails. Cut it off, sew machine out of the way. Alright, so here's our pants leg. Okay, here it's right side out. Okay, let's just serge the side. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure, if I'm making two of these, I need to go ahead and gather the other one and make sure they're the same length. This ruffle is the same length long. Okay, once I do, the next thing is I'm going to make sure it's long enough to actually go around it. And it is, with a little extra, and that's okay. Now, say it's not gathered as much as I want it to be. Alright, well, I kind of pretend like this is a curtain on a curtain rod. Well, the curtain rod is the thread. If you pull the back thread, it will knot up, and it won't work. Some people do too. You can do that too. I hold the front. Now, thread won't stretch. Okay, you'll break it if you pull on this thread. So I just kind of hold it, wrap it around my fingers a little bit, and you can move the curtain on the curtain rod. The curtain rod doesn't stretch either, so you can see you can pull it down. But it gets kind of pushed up together and won't move, so you kind of have to go back and do it a little bit more. Okay, if there's not enough in the middle, you can kind of pull this on down. See, it gets flat, so you just kind of move it around. Just remember, you can't stretch the curtain rod, but you can move the fabric. But when it gets all stuck together and won't move, don't try to force it. Go back to the middle where you can and pull some down. Just slowly and just kind of move them on down. Don't try to pull your curtain rod. Curtain rods won't move. Alright, so once you get it kind of gathered like you like it, you can move these, kind of distribute them evenly and like you like it. Then you take your pants. They need to be right sides out. Okay? Now, here's the seam, and it needs to go kind of like that, but that's kind of weird. So what you do is always upside down. Okay? So I'm going to take this, actually I'm going to take it, I like to go to the right. Okay? A little bit sticking out right there, so I'm just going to even it up just a little bit. Now, I'm going to eventually have to sew this ruffle together. If you'd made a tube, you wouldn't have to, but I kind of like doing it this way. There's other ways to do it. Okay? Raw sides together, upside down. Your pants should be going this way. Okay? Now, if you need to cut off some of your pants, don't just stick your ruffle on here. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to put it a little bit further. So, you know, we were talking about on our pants that the pants were about 42 inches, 2 inches longer than they need to be. So what you will need to do is pretend like you're putting them on, well, a couple inches up. And then you're going to put a pin kind of just directly to the left, because that's where you're going to be sewing. And you take it and just put it down like that. Lay your pants down and pull it down. Not like that. It would be just pulling it over on that pin just a little bit. Okay? Then your pants would, you know, extend way past up here, keep going that way. So you would measure down from the waistband with the casing with the elastic already in it, and you'd measure all the way down to the bottom. Well, not with that, with the measuring tape. Where'd my measuring tape go? And once you keep pulling it down like that, you'd measure it down and you go, oh, well, that's 43. I need it to be 40 or whatever. Whatever you need it to be. So keep moving this around where you need it. Pin it right above that elastic. Even if you're pinning, see, you're pinning through. Right now, we're just getting the pants the length they need to be. So when we put the ruffle on, they will be where they need to be. And then you get them down here, like, okay, with the pin pulled down, see right here? Just gently, that's where you'd be sewing. There's your 40. So that is where you need it to be. So you would take this and make a mark. And see how long that is. And say, oh, that's 2 inches. That would make sense. The pants were 2 inches longer than they needed to be. So I need to cut off 2 inches. But the biggest thing, just remember this. Put the ruffle on upside down next to the raw edge. Pin it right where you'd be sewing. Fold it over. Measure from the top of the waistband down all the way. And see if that's the length you need it, where you would be sewing. If it's not, keep moving it up until you get into the right place that you need it. Let's try that. Is that where I need it to be? Oh, yes, that ends up being 40 or 25 or 28 or whatever you need it to be. And if you pull that down and you measure down from the waistband and it's 40 inches and that's where that's what you want, then you make a mark and see how long that is, and that's how much you cut off. So you would measure up however many inches, however many inches, however many inches, all the way across. Draw yourself a straight line and then trim this off. Then you'll have your raw edge just the same. Once you have it cut off where you want it, take this and leave a little strip showing. Okay, see about an inch or so. And again, raw edge to raw edge. And you pin it right where you're going to be sewing. Right to the left of that. I mean, you can pin it different places. You can pin it like this if you want to, straight up and down. Okay? But you go all the way around. Now, if you made your ruffle like you like it, and it's the width and all scrunched up like you like it, and there's still a little bit hanging off when you get back around, I'll show you in a second. You do need a little hanging off anyway because you're going to have to sew these two little edges together. I'll show you. Raw edge to raw edge. Okay, so now I'm back kind of around. Put more pin right there. Alright, so here's my seam. You see my seam there in the middle? And I wanted it kind of to overlap right at that seam, which it does. One's a little bit longer than the other. It is perfectly okay. That's where I'm marking the top. Alright, so now, back to my sewing machine. Make sure you turn your tension back down to a 4. Your straight stitch back to I do a 1 and a 3. The reason I do a 1 and 3 is just easier to get out if I make a mistake instead of the 2.5. Alright, so now I've got this free arm here. This thing can come off. And I can slide my leg on it easier. Okay, so here's my seam. Thread to the back. Don't cut any of your threads off of your ruffle where you've gathered until you are finished. So I'm going to start kind of right in front of that seam. Okay, lower it down, pull out my first pin. Well, I'm going to roll down my needle. Okay, now if you get stuck, I can tend to just bring it around. Alright, lining up your raw edges right to the left of that little seam. You can kind of move these around. Right below that raw seam made, making sure that these are going straight and making sure you're flat underneath, because sometimes that might get folded down and you don't want that. So make sure those raw edges are together. If you have a serger, you can serge all the way around it and it cleans it up nicely. I'll show you how to clean it up. You can move those little pleats, ruffles around there. Not pleats. They're more gathered in one place. You just kind of move them. Now I'm going to stop right before I get to that seam. Okay, back stitch. Roll her up. Cut off your threads. Get ready for your next one. Now, I'm going to take this right here, these two seams, and I want to match them up right at that seam. Okay? Okay? Now, I'm going to turn it upside down. The most important part is lining up the bottom of that ruffle. Is that a bobbin? Okay. So the bottom of this ruffle is most important. So we're going to take this and I'm going to line this up, okay? Because I want the bottom, very bottom of my pants to be completely even. Okay, so I'm going to put a pin right here just to make sure this is going to stay together, stay nice and even. Okay, now where I want it to end up is right here. Oops. Right there at that seam. So I'll just kind of put those together. Okay, so here's my pants. Make sure that's good and even. I'm not gathering my pants. Right? So I kind of stretch out my pants and make sure that's not gathered. And I put a pin right where I need to sew. Okay. So now I know I need to start right there because there's my pants right there. And that should be the bottom. So I start here at the bottom. Put this down. Take out a pin. I'll roll her in. I'll go frontwards. And backwards. I can take this out, kind of know where I'm going, right where that hole is. Cut off some of these threads. Alright, so I've got this sewn together. I can cut off this extra. Take it back under. I'm going to turn it to a zigzag. That's a 4. Up 2, up 2. I'm going to zigzag 1 on, 1 off. Kind of wraps around the side of that. And back stitch. Alright, so now this little ruffle is on there, but you know where I had that hole is there's still a hole right here. Okay, so I'm going to change it back to my 1 and a 3, 1 stitch. Okay, put that back down. Right where I kind of finished sewing it around. So I'm going to put that back down, roll her in, back stitch. And I've got back to here 1 and a stitch length of a 3. I'm just going to sew across where that hole was. Kind of go into where I was sewing, back stitch, and take her out. Now, I've sewn all the way around this ruffle. But this edge is ugly, so I'm going to trim it off just a little bit. If you happen to get your gathering stitch, that is okay, but don't get your stitch you just sewed it on with. Kind of put my hand behind here to make sure I'm not getting the pants. Do this much slower if you're not used to it. And back around to that seam. Get all this stuff out of here. Alright, now it's nice and smooth. And cut off all the threads that were bugging you. We're going to put it back on, starting at the seam. Make sure threads between the presser foot. Turn it back to a 4 and up 2, up 2. Basically it's 4 and a 4.5 and a 2.0. And I'm going to do 1 on, 1 off all the way around. 1 on the fabric, 1 off. And this is going to keep it from raveling and fraying. All the way around. Now this stitch doesn't show, so you don't have to be perfect on that one. All right, now it's still kind of going in the up. We want it down because we want it to be a cute little ruffle. All right, so what we're going to do is go back to our seam and cut off any threads that are annoying you. Okay, we're going to turn back to a straight stitch of a 1 and a stitch length of a 3, and I'm going to put this under here. Now this same edge right here, we want it pointing up towards the pants leg, and you can kind of feel it right here. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to sew really close to this edge, closer to the ruffle. And this is called top stitching. And you can pull off some of those. I'm going to pull it apart a little bit as you go. What you want to do before you top stitch though, go around and look at all your stitches and make sure you've actually got it sewn on really well. I'll show you how to do the tube ruffle another time. But this is just the boutique ruffle, the no hem. You don't have to worry about a hem. You just need to make sure that you place it on your pants leg, you know, pin it, fold it down, and measure from the waist to make sure you got it the length that you want. Because you could put a ruffle on, but if you don't measure that length, they could be dragging the floor super or be way too short. And then when you get finished, there's the bottom of your pants. All right.